is entering the business of war, and the decision has sparked a war within the tech giant. Thousands of Google employees have taken on the company, many threatening to quit. Our cover story tonight delves deep into the controversial project that Google has taken up for the US military. What is Project Maven? It's classic artificial intelligence. Why is it a problem? Because it poses moral, ethical and legal challenges. Artificial intelligence has a lot to learn. Equipping it with killer machines is creating a Frankenstein's monster. Should the world's biggest search engine and one of the biggest social media giants be party to such a project? Should a company that is privy to the personal data of millions of people weaponize it to create autonomous drones? Very tough questions these. I'm afraid you may not find the answers on Google.
Wars these days are not just limited to guns, tanks and nuclear missiles. Artificial intelligence is now emerging as a new weapon. Countries are now using the machine learning technology for surveillance and to track enemies. But interestingly, governments are not doing it all alone. They are now drawing the support of tech titans as well, and one such company is Google. Google is offering the US military with the AI technology for Pentagon's Project Maven, but the collaboration between Google and the US Defense Department isn't going down well with a large number of company employees. It is important to note that concerns have been flagged around Google's AI support to the US military, as it could have disastrous consequences in the years to come. First, let's understand that how the Defense Department is actually leveraging Google's artificial intelligence technology. Google's new tool helps the Defense Department analyze videos captured by military drones. It distinguishes people and objects in drone videos, and therefore it can become easy to spot targets. The purpose here is help flying machines think and see. Looks like we are not far away from full-fledged autonomous weapons. It's now been reported that thousands of Google employees are upset with the partnership between Google and the US government. In fact, some of them are even planning to quit. An internal petition has been floating in the company, and it is calling for Google to stay out of the business of war. The petition reads, "We believe that Google should not be in the business of war, therefore we ask that Project Maven be cancelled and that Google draft, publicize and enforce a clear policy stating that neither Google nor its contractors will ever build warfare technology." According to a report, about 4,000 Google employees have signed a petition urging Google to pull out of the project. Google, on the other hand, has gone on record saying its work on improving machines' ability to recognize objects is not for offensive uses. But people are fearing that the technology could pave the way for automated targeting systems on armed drones. Maybe tomorrow the same technology could be used to launch missile strikes. And the question remains, is this the beginning of killer drones? Bureau Report, WION.
Artificial intelligence is evolving. It promises a better future, but like all technology, this too is a double-edged sword. AI can be programmed to do devastating things. For instance, autonomous weapons, lethal equipment that kills without human supervision and with limited human control. These armed drones could soon be a reality, and the obvious next step would be killer robots. This may sound like a science fiction plot. It could well be our future. The potential of artificial intelligence is immense, so is the harm and damage it can unleash. Let me give you a small example. AI-enabled devices usually rely on the internet, which means that they're open to a host of opportunities for hackers. Imagine someone hacking a killer drone and targeting innocent people. Cyber criminals can tamper with devices remotely and can cause unimaginable harm. In fact, AI can also be used to threaten critical infrastructure in the best case scenario for ransom, and there's no saying what the worst can be. There are fears that artificial intelligence may pose new threats or change the nature of existing threats across cyber, physical, and political spheres. Governments can use advanced technology to sift through data collected from surveillance networks to spy on their own people. Technology is advancing, but the same cannot be said of human control on it. Will artificial intelligence then be helpful or harmful in the long run? The answer to that depends as much on technology as those who use it. We discussed tools of modern warfare as our cover story tonight, and now to the oldest of wars, the Israel-Palestine conflict. It's on the boil again. The deadly violence in Gaza has spiraled into a global issue now. Images from the clashes that left 60 people dead still continue to dominate social media timelines around the world. While the protests have eased, tension remains high. Around the world, people are taking to the streets against the Israeli government. The decision by the Israeli Defense Force, or the IDF, to open fire on the protesters has led to global condemnation and even diplomatic repercussions for the Netanyahu government. Leaders of Palestinian political parties have vowed to continue their protest at the border areas. Listen in.
بالمشاركة بالفعاليات اليومية والأسبوعية في كافة أماكن تواجده وصولا إلى 5 من حزيران ذكرى احتلال القدس، وأننا مصممون على استمرار مسيرة العودة وكسر الحصار.
Meanwhile, the Israeli side is looking at life as usual. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu today attended the opening of Guatemala's embassy in Jerusalem. Guatemala is the second country to open its embassy in that city after the United States. And as if despite his critics, Mr. Netanyahu did this after that. The pictures on your screen. He was later seen doing the chicken dance with Eurovision Song Contest winner at his official residence, and speaking to the media there, Mr. Netanyahu said that Israel will continue to defend itself against Hamas. He claimed that out of the 60 people who died in Israeli firing, more than 50 belong to the terror outfit Hamas.
זה קרה בגלל הערכות הנכונה שלנו ובגלל הנחישות של חיילי צה"ל שמגנים על גבולותינו. הם לא מגנים מפני איזה הפגנה אזרחית, זה מהלך מלחמתי של החמאס.
India has also expressed concern over the tensions between Israel and Palestine. In a statement, the Ministry of External Affairs urged all sides to avoid escalation. The world over, criticism for Israel is mounting, and this includes 4 permanent members of the UN Security Council. The Arab League, meanwhile, has called for a meeting of its foreign ministers to discuss the crisis, and this is on the request of Saudi Arabia. South Africa and Turkey have recalled their ambassadors to Israel. Turkish President Mr. Erdogan launched a direct attack on the United Nations today. He said that the world body has collapsed in the face of Israeli killings in Gaza.
İşte Birleşmiş Milletler bütün bu olaylar karşısında bitmiştir, tükenmiştir, çökmüştür. Zira Birleşmiş Milletler adalet tesisi için vardır. Ama şu anda ben Birleşmiş Milletler Genel Sekreterine hukukumuz ileri derecede olmasına rağmen ulaşamıyoruz. Şayet İsrail zorbalığına daha fazla sessiz kalınırsa dünya hızla haydutluğun hakim olduğu bir kaosa doğru sürüklenecektir.
Indian politics can be entertaining at times, but mocking politicians is not a solution. Everything they do affects your life and mine. As Karnataka takes center stage in Indian politics, Gravitas decided to bring you this analysis. Karnataka elections have thrown the Indian democracy and its political system into the spotlight. The BJP emerged as the single largest party in that state, but the BJP did not get the majority. The ruling incumbent Congress party lost power, but it formed a post-poll alliance with the regional player, the JDS. So the Congress-JDS combined had bigger numbers than the BJP alone. The Congress and JDS staked claim to form the government in Karnataka. They failed. The BJP's chief ministerial candidate, Mr. Yediyurappa, met the governor, Vajubhai Vala. He got 15 days' time to prove majority on the floor of the Karnataka Assembly. Now what happens? Yediyurappa is the chief minister of Karnataka. He has a 15-day deadline looming. He has to prove he has the numbers. It's not that the Congress party did nothing to stop the swearing in of the BJP government. Congress moved the Supreme Court of India last night. 3 judges of the highest court of the land heard the Congress's side of the story for several hours. The time was 5:30 a.m. IST. The same time as the sun rose this morning in Delhi, 5:30 a.m. this morning, the Supreme Court of India refused to stay the swearing-in of Mr. Yediyurappa in Karnataka's capital, Bengaluru. But there was a catch. The matter is now sub judice before the courts. The Supreme Court has been involved. It clearly says the court's decision will be binding. And the court will hear the matter tomorrow. The Congress party did face some uncomfortable questions in the court for petitioning judges at midnight. The Attorney General, Mr. Venugopal, intervened in the court. He asked the Congress, what's the hurry? Will heavens fall if a person is sworn in the morning? The law officer further contended that everything was in the realm of speculation. What will happen if the Congress waits for 15 days? One judge thought differently, though. He asked, why wait for 15 days? But the bench also observed it was preposterous to think that MLAs will indulge in horse trading. Abhishek Manu Singhvi of the Congress party concluded by thanking the judges. He said it is the apex of democracy if the Supreme Court can open up at 2 a.m. to provide justice. That's all very well. Tejasvi Yadav is the leader of the RJD. It is a regional player in Bihar. And Tejasvi's father, Mr. Lalu Prasad Yadav, is now in jail for corruption. Anyway, Tejasvi's party emerged as the single largest party in Bihar elections. That was in 2015. It formed a coalition government with Nitish Kumar, but later Nitish Kumar switched sides, citing corruption allegations against the RJD leaders, and formed government with Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Bharatiya Janata Party. Sounds very complicated. This election happened in 2015. Why are we talking about it now? Because Tejasvi Yadav has taken cues from Karnataka. His argument now is that since his party is the single largest party in Bihar, it should be invited to form the government. To that end, he has announced protests tomorrow. What happened in Karnataka is spilling onto other states. Similarly, Congress party emerged as the single largest party in the state of Goa. But it was the BJP that formed the government, and now the Congress has appealed to the Goa governor that it should be given a chance to form a government. And why? Because it is the party with the highest number of MLAs in the state assembly. The premise on which Karnataka governor invited BJP's Yediyurappa to form a government in Karnataka while ignoring the claim of the Congress and the JDS combined. There was a commission called Sarkaria Commission. It gave its recommendations on what should be done in the case of a fractured mandate. If no party gets the clear majority, what should the governor do? These recommendations were affirmed by the Constitution Bench of the Supreme Court. This was in 2005. So what are these recommendations? The commission gave the order in which the governor must invite parties to form a government. The first preference must be given to an alliance of parties that was formed prior to elections. In the case of Karnataka, there was no such alliance. If that fails, the governor must invite the single largest party staking claim to form the government. The party can also show support of others, including independent lawmakers. If and after this measure also fails, the preference must be given to a post-poll alliance of parties, like the Congress and the JDS in this case, and all of these parties must then join the government. The last option, there can also be a provision for parties coming together to form the government. Some of these parties joining hands can give outside support. About 12 years ago, in the year 2006, a 7-judge constitution bench of the Supreme Court had dealt with the role of the governor and her discretionary powers. The court had ruled that there is nothing wrong in post-poll adjustments. There is no harm when two parties come together because of ideological similarity. This is plain opportunism. The judgment also said clearly that if a political party with the support of other political parties stakes claim to form the government and satisfies the governor about its ability to form the government cannot refuse formation of the government. The governor's subjective assessment does not matter in a situation like this. The court even said that the governor is not an autocratic political ombudsman. He cannot decide on whim. WION hopes that we've been able to put things in perspective, give you an idea of what's happening there and why there are parallels to be drawn from history and from contemporary cases. The political drama that started in Karnataka has now engulfed Goa, Bihar, Mizoram, Manipur. Thanks to a fractured mandate in one state, the governor has acted. The single largest party, the BJP, has formed the government. It is not clear how Mr. Yediyurappa will prove his majority on the floor of the House. He has 15 days to do it. The Congress, meanwhile, is now on a mission to challenge the BJP. The charges of horse trading are flying thick and fast. In case Mr. Yediyurappa fails to prove majority, the governor will have to invite this post-poll alliance of the Congress and the JDS. But if Mr. Yediyurappa does prove the majority, allegations of horse trading will gain momentum. Where did he find those extra MLAs that he needed? And let's not forget, the Supreme Court of India is hearing the Congress's petition tomorrow. Little doubt then that Karnataka is now the political hot potato, and the fight for the next big elections, the 2019 general elections for the central government, has become very, very ferocious. That's a story we'll keep tracking. For the moment, let's come to a tragedy that keeps compounding with the passing of every day. Over the last 9 months, we've seen the horror of the Rohingya exodus from Myanmar unfolding before our very eyes. We've seen pictures from the camps where daily survival is the biggest challenge for people. And now there's a new dimension to this crisis. Rohingya camps are full of pregnant women. Many of them are rape survivors. The UNICEF estimates that 60 babies, 60, are born in the world's largest refugee camp in unimaginable, pathetic conditions every day. 60 babies.
These are the vast Rohingya refugee camps in Bangladesh's Cox's Bazar, where thousands of survivors struggle for every inch of space and every morsel of food daily. The crisis is only set to worsen. Aid workers are now scouring these camps for pregnant Rohingya rape survivors, with a rush of births anticipated 9 months after Myanmar forces unleashed what's being called a frenzy of sexual violence. The UNICEF estimates that around 60 babies are being born every day in these camps. But aid workers fear many women are hiding their pregnancies out of shame, which could mean newborns being abandoned and new mothers dying without care.
For Save the Children, the greatest concern of the babies left behind is that they could grow up with a stigma or a label attached to them, which is the last thing we'd like to see for these babies.
More than 16,000 babies have been born in these camps since the crisis began, says the UNICEF. Only 3,000 of them were delivered in health facilities.
I think when it comes to sexual and gender-based violence cases that we do see in our health facilities, I would say it's the tip of the iceberg. In a huge camp like this, it's not easy for victims of violence to find, the medical care they need.
Aid workers and volunteers contend with a deep-rooted stigma that keeps many sexual assault survivors from revealing their ordeal. Tosminara, herself a Rohingya refugee, has spent months coaxing these women out of the shadows, promising discretion. Nearly 700,000 Rohingya fled to Cox's Bazar in Bangladesh following the Myanmar military crackdown. Aid workers are ready to assign abandoned children to women who can breastfeed them until families are found in the Rohingya community. Bureau Report, WION.
And preparations are on in full swing for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's royal wedding this Saturday. From security to flowers to guests to music, everything, we're told, is set for the big day. Take a look at what's happening in the quiet town of Windsor.
Oh, yay! He's proud to announce the imminent arrival of Her Royal Highness Meghan Markle, the future princess and bride-to-be, a queen of the courtroom.
think you should be really, really upset about it. I really do.
Oh, I think it's so upsetting for her. It must be very upsetting.